Welcome to the RJLT Economics. In this podcast, I want to discuss the developments of two issues. These developments, I think these two issues are the key issues of our times. And I believe, or in my opinion, the development of these two issues will determine whether the Cold War, which we are in now, will stay cold. And these two issues are, number one, the conflict in Ukraine, and number two, the process of de-dollarization. And I will develop today's podcast in two steps. First, going over one after the other. First, let's talk about the Ukrainian conflict. I think that it's really the development of this conflict, not necessarily the day-to-day, but over a long period of time, how this ends, how soon it ends, and what will be the outcome of this ending that will determine whether the Cold War will remain cold. First, in terms of outcome, it could be a Russian victory of various sorts or a Russian loss. And in terms of time, it can be fast or it can be slow. Let's talk about the fast ones. I think whether it's a Russian victory or a Russian loss, when it is fast, it is bad for for long-term global peace. Why? Because if there's a very quick Russian loss, it will certainly embolden those who have been behind the Ukrainian conflict in the West, and these people have manifested, they have declared publicly their ambition, their intention of opening a second theater perhaps concurrently, but I think most likely after the Ukrainian conflict concludes. And that new theater we know is the Pacific theater. That obviously is not going to be very good because they have this plan. They are looking for an opportunity. And if they get emboldened and if spoils roll in, they also have the resources. Then there's the will, there's the resources, there's the opportunity. There will be a military conflict. That will not be good, right? Quick Russian loss is very bad. But quick Russian victory in Ukraine is also bad because the same people that I talk about that would be emboldened, they would be enraged, and those people are not necessarily of the type that are calm and patient and really strategically speaking, calculating. But they are, they are a little bit conniving, but they are impatient. They are they are somewhat bold. They are a little bit reckless. And so when they lose, they're more likely to lash out. They're more likely to double down. They lose in one theater, they want to open a second theater, thinking that perhaps the second bet, in this second bet, their luck will turn around. And that's obviously it's less likely than the first case where there's a quick Russian loss. But let me rephrase it to make it clear. The possibility that they would lash out and engage quickly in the second theater is lower than the probability that they would engage in the second theater if there's a quick Russian loss, right? If there's a quick Russian loss, I think it's almost 100% that they would engage in the second theater. But if there's a quick Russian victory, I think there's probably 2/3, 2-1 odds, or perhaps 80%, something thereabouts, that they would engage in a war in the Pacific. So that's the difference. But nevertheless, it will be likely if there's a quick Russian victory. More safer for world peace would be if there's a prolonged conflict, and if this conflict in Ukraine becomes a forever war that continually drains the resources of NATO, that continually drains the resources of the United States, military resources, but also financial ones, and that not only weakens it, but also takes away the opportunity that the time window, closes the time window, takes away the wheels to fight, to open a second front, and a range of similar considerations like that. And so it would be actually good for long-term world peace. The key here, I believe, is to keep the Ukrainian conflict at a low temperature, right? So it's like simmering beneath the surface, but not necessarily bubbling like a full boil, right? So that's basically my opinion in terms of the Ukrainian conflict. Obviously, the Ukrainians and also a lot of the Eastern Europeans and also the Russians, they will be the ones bearing the sacrifice. But here is where we are, and I think these are the considerations. I could very well be wrong, and if you have a different opinion, please comment. We could discuss. And now let's talk about the second issue, which is the process of de-dollarization. Again, I think time is very important, and also the outcome. Time and outcome. So there could be a quick one, or there could be a slow one. But actually, when it comes to de-dollarization, it could be a quick collapse, but it cannot be a quick non-collapse, because a quick non-collapse does not preclude or exclude a slow collapse, right? So really what we have is a quick collapse, a slow collapse or slow de-dollarization, or dollar remaining strong. So these three possibilities. I think, again, it's the middle option that is the best for world peace. When there's a quick de-dollarization, quick collapse, which I don't think will happen, but if it does happen, what would take place afterwards, the outcome, the aftermath, is on the one hand, indeed, that the United States will lose its financial resources to carry out its forever wars. But at the same time, and perhaps America will be militarily weakened. But at the same time, the world, I have to say this, the United States is not necessarily a power for peace, but its presence, the shadow that its power casts, let's say, does provide stability. And there are players, there are national and non-national, or perhaps whatever powers that perhaps civilian, I don't know what is. Sovereign and non-sovereign powers, perhaps that's a better way to put it, that want to cause trouble. They want to fight for a range of issues. Could be power, could be ideology, could be resources and money. And this basically means that a quick collapse of the United States means a destabilized world order. It's not necessarily good. On the other hand, if the United States dollar, the USD, remains very strong and remains the world reserve currency, it empowers the United States. And obviously, this means that even with a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, that will come to an end sooner or later. And with the United States being strong and with its will to fight still held high, and with its resources, perhaps whatever spoils that it can gather from the Ukrainian conflict, and perhaps the other resources that it can continue to harvest from the rest of the world, a conflict in the Pacific perhaps could be delayed, but not necessarily prevented. So this leaves us the middle option, which is a slow, orderly de-dollarization process. With this process, the United States will be gradually weakened militarily so that its military projection will shrink. The mission of the U.S. military would turn from projecting power to protecting the land, or protecting the country, protecting the nation. So it would actually turn from an offensive power to a defensive power. And that in itself is good, but at the same time, because the decline of U.S. power will be gradual, this means that it gives time for other powers to fill in the space, and the orderly process would mean that there could actually be a multipolar world where there will be more discussion, more cooperation, and less conflict, because the United States will remain a vital power that actually it plays as a check on the ambitions or perhaps malices of other powers. I'm not saying that everyone is malicious, but some of them could be, and basically the idea, the saying is that it's not necessarily to doubt the integrity of a person, but actually to make sure that if there is ever a malintent, it will be shut down very quickly, so that that person will not make mistakes or something like that. I think perhaps I made myself clear, but that's perhaps as good as I can put it. All right, so thank you very much for listening. Check out my website, drjlt.com. I have mostly currently just photos. Maybe I will publish some blogs. Maybe not. These days, there are GPT-3. I think it's much... nobody reads vlogs, but check out my pictures. Thanks. Have a great day.